the Ford Motor Company, maker of Ford, Thunderbird, Edsel, Mercury, Lincoln, Lincoln Continental, and the new Ford Falcon, presents Leonard Bernstein and the New York Philharmonic in Moscow. And Joseph N. Welch with A Message for Americans.
During our 3-week stay in the Soviet Union, we not only played for thousands of warm, wonderful Russians, but we talked to them, touched them, argued, fought, and laughed with them. On this, our final day in Moscow, I am about to speak to an invited audience of students, professors, and just plain Russians in the Great Hall of the Tchaikovsky Conservatory, talking to them and to you about the similarity of our two great peoples as seen through our music. The Soviet audience has been furnished with printed translations of my words so that I might speak directly to two peoples at once.
Здравствуйте, друзья. What a stirring occasion this is, and how significant. Who would have thought 10 years ago that we would be hearing those two anthems played consecutively here in Moscow by the New York Philharmonic Orchestra, or of having these fine Soviet musicians playing with us, or that I could be standing here talking to you Russians and at the same time, through the medium of television, reaching millions of Americans with the very same words. Yes, we two countries have come a long way toward being close together, but we must come even closer together not only because we two giant nations cannot afford to be unfriendly, but also because it is so natural a thing for us to be close to each other. Despite all our obvious differences, the vast differences of language, of customs, of social and economic systems, despite all these, we have likenesses which are even more basic than our differences, and which I believe will, in the long run, prevail. Now, what is this closeness based on? What is it that makes us so alike in spite of the obvious differences? Well, we're going to try to answer that question today, at least in part, through music. Perhaps music can tell us some surprising things that we can't find out from books and newspapers. The first thing of all to be said is that Americans and Russians simply love each other's music. Each people seems to find something of itself in the music of the other. Somehow we sense a common identity on the deepest level in that special corner of the heart where music lives and breathes. Just remember how you Russians loved Gershwin's Porgy and Bess. Вы помните эту прекрасную мелодию от Porgy and Bess? There is something in this Gershwin music of a tragic beauty, of an unashamed emotional candor that is as typically Russian as it is American. There's much American music that you love, jazz, symphonic, and otherwise. But do you know how fervently Americans love Russian music? Do you know that the best-selling phonograph record of all time in our country is Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite? And that the composition most often recorded in America is Scheherazade by Rimsky-Korsakov. And that the most popular symphonies we have are by Tchaikovsky. The most popular piano concertos by Rachmaninoff. And that our most popular ballet is still Swan Lake. Do you know how many popular songs have been made in our country out of works by Russian composers? Like a song called Full Moon and Empty Arms that was made out of Rachmaninoff's second piano concerto. Popular song. Or this one called Tonight We Love, which is not a very good song, which is made out of Tchaikovsky's piano concerto. There are dozens of them. But that's enough about pop tunes. Now let's dig into the main question facing us, the exciting story of the similarity of your music and ours. And I mean serious contemporary music, because after all, that's what really interests us, the relation between modern Russia and modern America. Now let's take a Russian work and an American work. The extraordinary Seventh Symphony by Shostakovich and the suite from Aaron Copland's ballet, Billy the Kid. Now, why just these two particular works? They are so different in intention. One is a heroic symphony, and the other is a picturesque cowboy ballet. But they are each so typical of their respective countries' art, and they were written within a few years of each other, and they are both after the same objective, which is to make a serious statement to a wide audience in highly nationalistic musical language. Now let's first think of these two works as coming from two countries which are vast in a sheer geographical sense. Think of their expanse, their limitless horizons, their endless variety. It's natural to expect such countries to produce art on an equally grand scale, whether it be just the boastful grandiosity of buildings in Dallas or in Moscow, or at the highest level, a true majesty and grandeur in our music. our composers and yours are equally attracted by big statements, prophetic exhortations, and grandiose utterances. Just listen, for example, to these final bars of the Copeland Ballet, which describes the opening of new Western frontiers in America 100 years ago. I think you'll find a big quality of pioneering strength that could almost as well be describing the opening of your own Siberian frontiers. There is something heroic in Billy the Kid after all, just as there is in the Shostakovich Symphony. Now listen to the last few bars of that work, the Shostakovich Symphony, and see if you don't feel an astonishing similarity in quality. Now, one of the greatest characteristics of a country as huge as either America or the Soviet Union is its capacity to absorb any and all elements, including the most exotic strains. Think of Russia, for instance, part Europe, part Asia, part Arctic, part Baltic, part Balkan, part Near East. Think of its 100 or more nationalities. Why, only a country so enormous and so varied could ever absorb all those elements into the mainstream of its life so deeply that its art emerges as a wonderful assimilation of cross cultures. For instance, listen to this lovely melody from the second movement of the Shostakovich Symphony and see if you don't hear distinct echoes from the far, far east. But that is Russian music. That's the thing to remember. Now, America, of course, is also a gigantic melting pot, perhaps even more so, since it owes its very existence to foreign elements. Almost every American has recent forebears from somewhere else. And so we have performed over the less than 200 years of our existence something of a miracle of absorption and assimilation. Just think of a drummer in the heart of Africa beating out a rhythm of celebration, and then imagine what a long road it is from those drum beats to the jazz rhythms we hear every day and take for granted. And sure enough, those rhythms finally turn up in as sophisticated a composition as this ballet, Billy the Kid, a ballet that has nothing whatever to do with jazz or with urban life, or certainly not with Africa, and yet here they are, those same syncopations and cross rhythms directly descended from that African drummer. Now, so far, we have been speaking of only two facets of our musical similarity. Imagine, only two: the grandeur we share and our common capacity to absorb and assimilate exotic strains. Now, the truth is that there are so many more facets to this diamond that we could talk for days about them. Take humor, for instance. It would seem from the musical evidence that we both laugh at the same kind of jokes. Even apart from music, I may say that I've been told many jokes during these last weeks in your country that turn out to be old favorites at home. We even laugh alike, you see. And so how natural it is that Shostakovich's humor should not be so different from Copland's humor. Listen to this theme, for instance, from the 7th Symphony, with its high, sardonic squeal of the little E-flat clarinet and the blatant rhythmic pumping underneath. And here now is the American equivalent of that in Billy the Kid. The same raucous squeal, the same pumping accompaniment, practically the same joke. You see what I mean? Понимаете ли вы? And along with this love of the same humor, we share a similar love of frankness and open-hearted behavior. We are both characteristically candid peoples, even though our political differences don't always allow us to act that way. But it certainly shows up in our art. What could be more direct, good-humored, and fresh than this tune from Billy the Kid? And as far as directness and frankness are concerned, we have only to look at the first few bars of the Shostakovich Symphony to find them. Imagine beginning that great heroic piece in this modest, forthright, simple way. I sometimes think that this love of simple lyricism, which is closely connected with the love of folk song and folklore elements, is typical of young societies. That is, young in the sense that they are still close to culturally primitive elements. Perhaps only we two countries of all advanced civilizations on this earth have this in common. After all, we both have millions of citizens in our countries who only less than 100 years ago were still living what we would call primitive lives. And the effect of this closeness in time to a primitive phase of life is to bring out in our music those very folkish elements that we still feel close to, such as those simple melodic lines we've just heard, as well as quasi-primitive writing and sounds in our orchestral procedures, in our orchestrations. How we love percussion, for instance, your composers and ours, and how we love to make strong sounds, sounds that carry with them overtones of music from long, long ago. Listen to how Shostakovich opens his third movement with an almost biblical ringing of harps and wind instruments, a really glorious sound. Somehow that is a sound that only a Russian could have produced. And now listen to this orchestral invention of Copland's, speaking of primitive sounds, where he paints for us Billy the Kid's blazing gunfight in the desert. Now that could have been written only by an American. What have we discovered so far? Just this. Everything we have heard points to our common youth, our affection for our primitive past, our emotional expansiveness, our sense of fun, our frankness, our tremendous vigor, and the endless variety within our two countries. Your music and ours are the artistic products of two very similar peoples, peoples who are natural friends, who belong together, and who must not let suspicions and fears and prejudices keep them apart. This is what I have come to feel in these few weeks that I have been your guest, and I deeply hope that you feel the same.
Mr. Bernstein will return in a few minutes. Now the Ford Motor Company takes pleasure in giving up its commercial time to present to you a message for Americans.
This is Independence Hall in Philadelphia. This, as you know, is the Liberty Bell, and I am Joseph Welch. I love to come back to this place. This is where it all started, our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. It was right in this room that the Declaration was signed in 1776. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments were instituted among men. In all the history of man, there are no ideas more noble than these, and few more beautifully written. And later in this big room, the delegates from the states worked all through the summer of 1787, hammering out the document that we call our Constitution. This is the very room. Here sat James Madison of Virginia, over there Benjamin Franklin, nearby, Randolph, Mason, Gary. Their chairman, George Washington himself, occupied that handsome, high-backed seat. Most of them were private citizens, farmers, lawyers, doctors, who gave some part of their personal lives to travel here to Philadelphia to debate heatedly and ultimately to vote on 4 sheets of longhand. These few sheets of paper, our Constitution, contain not just ordinary words, mind you, but a set of carefully conceived rules by which a new society has now lived for 170 years. That is the kind of mileage we have gotten out of the 4 summer months which these men gave us out of their personal lives so long ago. As you look around this old room so briefly occupied by those earlier Americans, does it perhaps occur to you to look around your own room and to ask yourself, how much time am I giving out of my personal life so that this free nation may maintain its freedom? Are you prepared, as they were, to give some of your personal time and energy to that end? It is not their wigs and buckled shoes that made those men distinctive among all Americans. It is what they did with a portion of their personal lives. Their work is not finished. It is waiting for you and me in every home and schoolroom and courthouse and voting booth in America. They created what Jefferson called the bright constellation which has guided our steps. But what matters today is that we should meet the tasks of this century as they met theirs. What matters is the steps we take, your steps and mine.
Now the Ford Motor Company returns you to Leonard Bernstein.
An important part of our mission of friendship here in the Soviet Union has been to play for you a great deal of American music. But this mission must work both ways in order to accomplish real friendship. And so we are now going to play for our American television audience the entire huge first movement of the Seventh Symphony by Shostakovich, a work written in 1941, the first year of the war, and dedicated to Shostakovich's beloved and at the time besieged city of Leningrad. Now, just before we play it for you now, I would like most humbly and respectfully to welcome to this audience Mr. Shostakovich himself, and I would like to thank him personally and in the name of my country for the wonderful music he has given us.
Following a short announcement, you will see Boris Pasternak, author of Dr. Zhivago, as he appeared at the farewell concert of the Philharmonic in Moscow.
I finished our farewell concert thinking what a thrilling world this could be if only we knew we would never again have to indulge the brutal sin of war making. If the Russians could be as hospitable and warm as they were to us, why couldn't such warmth overflow into the totality of our relations? Instead of wasting our energies in hostility and our wealth on weaponry, we could send art to the moon, exalt our Pasternaks instead of isolating them. We could feed and house and clothe everyone forever, lick cancer in a week, harness the sun's energy, learn a few languages, talk, travel, grow, and love. If our musical mission has made any slight contribution to that eventual state of affairs, we are humbly grateful. And we are particularly grateful to President Eisenhower for making our mission possible.
The Ford Motor Company has presented Leonard Bernstein and the New York Philharmonic in Moscow. And Joseph N. Welch with A Message for Americans. Four weeks from now, on Sunday, November 22nd, the Ford Motor Company will present Leonard Bernstein and the New York Philharmonic in Venice.